Welcome to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. We're a community newspaper based in Mid-Coast, Maine, and we provide the most comprehensive, in-depth coverage available anywhere of the 18 towns and one plantation that make up Lincoln County. My name's Molly Rains, and I'm a reporter here at the Lincoln County News.
And my name is Piper Pavelich. I'm also a reporter here at the Lincoln County News, and it's just us two today.
Just us. A very quiet office today.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about our March 27th edition today, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about local libraries and the effects that potential federal funding cuts might have on them.
I can't wait to hear about it. But first, here are some of the other stories from this week. Molly, I know last week you had the Madomic math team, a story about those guys. And from that, you found out about a student at Jefferson that is nationally ranked for math performance. So you did a story on that this week.
Yeah, the mathletes.
The mathletes, they're taking over.
Yeah, there's something in the water. Yes, this is a story about Jonathan Bernier, who's a 6th grade student at JVS, the Jefferson Village School. He's a Jefferson resident too. And I wrote about him because he achieved something that a very small number of people in the country do, which is get a perfect score on his whole math team season, which is incredible. That entails, he's a part of the Jefferson Village School math team, and they compete in something called the Continental Mathematics League, which is a big deal.
Yeah, it sounds super serious.
Yes, it is. It's a math league that goes over the whole country. They've got a bunch of different grade levels. It's kind of like a pre-high school math team league. And his math teacher, Barbara Williams, who's also the math team coach at JVS, was saying that there's usually about 100 schools participating in the league, and each school could have about 100 kids. So there's 1,000 students or more in the league at each grade level.
Wow.
And Jefferson is this very small school. They have about 21 students on the math team, but Jonathan is a natural leader on the math team, and he this year got a perfect score on all 5 of the math team tests. And so that puts him, the math league, the Continental Math League, ranks him as a national student leader. He was the only JVS student to do that, but he was also one of only 3 students in the New England area to do that this year. Yeah.
This kid's what, a 6th grader? So
he's
11, 12
years old? I don't remember if he was 11 or 12, but yes.
That's wild.
Yes. And out of all the 6th grade students nationwide in the Continental Math League, which Ms. Williams was saying is probably about 1,000, he is one of 36 to achieve that, which is crazy.
And I'm seeing here that Miss Williams also said she's only had one other student have a perfect season in her whole career.
Yes, she said something. She gave this report at a meeting of the Jefferson School Committee, and she was talking about Jonathan, and she was saying, well, I'm not that old. I haven't had thousands of students. But she has had a number of them.
Yeah.
And she's only had one other student achieve this, so it's a huge deal. And I got to talk to Jonathan, which was awesome. He's a great interview, very charismatic, and he was talking about math and why he likes it. And he's saying he likes the puzzle and the challenge, which is, I think, what it takes to be a mathematician. You have to want to be stumped, right?
Oh yeah, probably.
And he can handle that. And he likes solving problems. He likes how much you can use math in your day-to-day life. And he also was considering being a math teacher, but he also might be an actor or a dancer or a singer because he's big into theater too. So if you want to catch Jonathan Bernier, he's going to be playing the lead in Guys and Dolls this summer through Y Arts, through the Booth Bay Region YMCA.
This kid.
Yes. And I just want to say his parents are both on the Jefferson School Committee. His mom's Danielle Bernier, the chair, and his dad's Andy Bernier, a committee member. And Danielle said that she and Andy are very proud of Jonathan and excited to see where his love of math brings him in the future. We also appreciate Mrs. Williams and JVS for the opportunity they have provided him to participate in math team.
Oh my goodness. This is so wholesome.
I know. She said at the meeting he was like very excited, but he was trying to keep it cool.
Oh yeah, he's trying to keep it cool.
Keep it cool.
Calm, cool, and collected.
Yes.
That's so cool.
So in the world of education, Piper, we have a $10.8 million budget in Wiscasset.
Yeah, maybe let's hand it over to Jonathan and he can do some math with it because it's...
Yeah, talk about real world applications.
Talk about using math in the real world. But yes, the Wisconsin School Committee voted 3-2 to adopt a budget that totals $10,896,270. And I think everyone's a little surprised because usually it's a unanimous vote from the school committee with this kind of thing. But it's also kind of giving hope to some residents who want to see changes within the budget. But, either way, it was a 3-2 vote, so it's majority rules. So it was adopted. And then there was a 3-2 vote to approve the warrant that the budget is going to appear on for a meeting in April.
So is this a recommended budget?
So this is the school committee's budget. So it's going to go to voters in April. Voters are going to be like, yay or nay.
Oh, I see.
And then that total is going to be on the ballot in the town meeting by referendum in June. So it's this couple step process that happens every year. But yeah, so Jonathan Barnes and Tracy Whitney are the two that voted in opposition. Victoria Hugo Vidal, Jason Putnam, and Jody Hardwick voted in favor of it. Both Jonathan and Tracy wanted to know more about the expenditures, wanted to spend more time going through it, pointed out what they thought were some errors in the budget that they wanted to see corrected.
Interesting.
But Jason Putnam, he's the chair. He put it up to a vote, and, that's what happened, 3-2. So, overall, the budget includes an expansion of early childhood education and intervention through the addition of a pre-K coordinator, which the superintendent says is somebody who's already on staff that's going to take on that responsibility.
That's interesting because Maine schools are all going to have to take on care of three.
Exactly.
Is that something to do with that? Maine schools are expected to take on care of 3- and 4-year-olds with special educational needs in the coming years. So all schools, they're doing it in phases, but all schools are going to have to take that on.
Yeah, so this is part of that. And then, as per usual, we're anticipating an increase in health insurance and salaries and benefits and all that stuff. So, but yeah, like I said, voters will get to voice their opinions on it at a special town meeting April 29th at 6 p.m. at the Wisconsin Middle High School. And then from there, whatever they approve will be on the ballot in the town's annual meeting.
Wow.
So
we've got more than a month for people to discuss this. And because sometimes when there's a margin like that, not wholehearted support from the committee, it makes you wonder what voters will say and how it'll go. So
it's not over yet. So anyone that's living in Wisconsin, if you have something to say about this budget, you should be at that April 29th meeting because you could ultimately make a difference in the figure that's going to be on the ballot. So but yeah, and then we're sticking in schools for some more stories. Molly, tell us about the Sixers that are going to be going to Madomic Middle School next year.
It's a big deal. It's been a long conversation. I think people who've been reading the paper for a year or so will remember that, many people will remember that RSU 40 has been having some space challenges for some time. And part of the large bond that was a huge question and discussion among voters over a year ago at this point was addressing those space concerns because at the elementary level, specifically in the town of Waldoboro, there are a lot of students that need classrooms and education, which is interesting because as a whole, RSU 40 is declining in enrollment, but Waldoboro is the exception to that rule, and Miller School, which is Waldoboro's, at this point, pre-K to 6th grade school, is really running out of space for all those students. So it's been a discussion because on the one hand, you have to balance the trend of declining enrollment and anticipating what that might mean for the school going forward. I think they're projecting to lose about 10% over the next 10 years. And then on the other hand, you have Miller School, which has, at this point, students learning in converted bathrooms, students learning in hallways, teachers who don't have classrooms who are teaching classes in all of these spaces. Like their music program, which was added a few years ago, doesn't have a classroom and teaches students on a stage, and apparently the sound quality is very bad and it's kind of crazy and overwhelming.
Oh my gosh.
There's all these creative solutions to overcrowding at Miller School, but obviously they're not really solutions.
Yeah.
And so that's where the discussion is coming from. It's been, how can we solve the fact that Miller School can't accommodate all of its students? So for the past couple of weeks, I've been attending the RSU 40 budget committee meetings and the board meetings. And it's been an ongoing conversation because the town of Friendship is dealing with the opposite problem, where they don't have enough students in some of their grade levels.
Oh, interesting.
And so they were saying, could we just blur the lines of the district a little bit and send, like, for example, one bus of students to Friendship? So that was a proposed solution. We also talked about, like, busing kids to other schools throughout the district to create room at Miller. But ultimately, every student is an individual and they all have different needs. All the schools have, like, slightly different programs and capabilities to address those. So they decided just moving one bus wouldn't really solve it. It would make some classes at Friendship too big and other ones still wouldn't get enough students. So the next thing they considered was, and this has been on the table for a while too, was moving the whole 6th grade class at Miller School to Madomic Middle School, which has, well, some people think has room. Principal Josh Snyder, Madomic Middle School principal Josh Snyder, said he doesn't understand why people think Madomic Middle School has room. He was saying space concerns are pressing throughout the district. And if I'm remembering the quote correctly, he was saying there's an implied sense of space and freedom here, and I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is saying this isn't, at the meeting, he said he felt like he had to advocate for his students and families, and he didn't feel like it was the solution everybody was hoping it would be. But ultimately, the board, Vice Chair Julie Swindler, who made the motion, said we have to think about the sacrifices that our elementary schools have been making for years. And while this isn't going to be easy, it is going to open up some classrooms at Miller School. So the current 5th grade class at Miller School next year is not going to stay at Miller. They're going to go to middle school. What that'll look like is kind of unclear, but I'm sure that they'll figure it out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then as part of this, as other ways to address the space concerns at Miller, because they are so short on space that just moving the 6th grade wasn't enough. And it's about 50 kids. So imagine that. They're also going to move one classroom worth of a special ed program with multiple grade levels in it to Union. And then they're also going to issue an invitation to Miller School families to say, hey, if you have a student at Miller School and you wish you could send them to another school in RSU 40, go for it, provided that you can provide transportation yourself, because organizing the busing cross-district is not a possibility. They're so short on bus drivers.
This sounds really intense.
It sounds very complicated, right? Yeah. But it feels also,
wow.
From what I've heard from Principal Julia Levenseller, the principal at Miller School, it seems like they feel it's warranted because they're struggling so much to
absolutely
house their kids. Yeah. So we'll see. I think it's really interesting to watch this phenomenon where Waldoboro's young children population is increasing a little bit while the rest of the RSU 40 district is shrinking.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Which is interesting too, because Waldoboro is the only Lincoln County town in that district. And I'm pretty sure Lincoln County kind of has a different population trend than the rest of their neighboring counties too. True. So very interesting. And you can see that it really does impact day-to-day operations in the schools.
Wow. Yeah. I know it's not really what anyone wants to do, but hopefully it's sort of a step in the right direction to kind of address the challenges that they're seeing over there. That's very intense.
It is, yeah. I think it wasn't a decision anybody seemed to take lightly, because anytime you change routine for kids, it can be hard. Yeah. So I can imagine if I were a 6th grader, about to be a 6th grader, and they were like, you have to be a middle schooler now, I might be a little sad.
Yeah, I'd get really anxious.
But I'm sure it will be wonderful. And Madomic Middle School is a great place. So they shouldn't be worried.
Yeah. Hopefully they can just continue providing support to their students, even though this isn't necessarily a thing that anyone really wanted to do. Hopefully we can work through it.
Yes.
But wow.
So Piper, I wonder, we're still sticking with the schools.
Yeah, I didn't realize how many school-based stories we had until reading this right now.
I mean, it's just been it's budget season.
Yeah.
We're going to a lot of school budget meetings, but this is not budget related.
This is not budget related.
You got some court news for us.
I do. So this has been about 5 years in the making. So before either of us were anywhere near Lincoln County. But if anyone's been around that long and has followed this, Madomic Valley High School graduate Adriana Wadsworth originally filed a lawsuit in December 2019 against former MVHS principal Andrew Kavanaugh and former social worker Chuck Nguyen. And she was alleging that the two violated her civil rights and were negligent in their respective roles, and that she experienced daily sexual harassment and discrimination from Kavanaugh beginning in 2016. So she is seeking damages for emotional distress and expenses related to the lawsuit. And the news with this is that a trial has finally been set 5 years after the suit was originally filed, which is really intense.
Like, I'm pretty ignorant about civil proceedings, but I wonder if that's standard. Is that long?
With this case specifically, the scheduling a trial was slowed down by COVID and multiple appeals to the First Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston. So I don't know that this is really standard.
It's been a while.
Sure. I'm not sure what the standard is, but I would think it would be faster than 5 years.
We don't know.
But of course, don't quote me on that because I don't know. But yeah, so it's going to be going to trial in the U.S. District Court in Portland Thursday, June 5th. So that's when it's going to begin. Originally, the suit also named RSU 40 and Madomic Valley High School, but she dropped the high school from the suit in 2020, and a summary judgment was given in favor of RSU 40 in 2023, meaning that the charges, if you will, against them wouldn't stick. So they didn't have to go to trial. So yeah, both Kavanaugh and Nguyen have denied the claims, but it'll be going to trial in a couple months. So I guess we'll see what happens with it.
Yes. And I want to clarify that neither one of them is associated with RSU 40 anymore.
True. Yep. Kavanaugh was placed on leave shortly after this came out, and he resigned in December 2017. I'm not sure when left, but he is no longer with RSU 40.
Well, just down the road from Madomic Valley High School is Brown's Propane. And
our character this week.
They were our characters of the county this week. I got a great recommendation from Brittany project manager at CHIP, Community Housing Improvement Project, which is a Lincoln County nonprofit that helps people out with heating assistance and home building. And she said, we know these great propane vendors named Jenny and Dean Barry, and they'd make great characters, and they did.
Yeah.
Yes, I got to go to Brown's Propane. Much to my surprise, they are not named Jenny and Dean Brown. A good thing they mentioned that.
Just be like, who are you people?
I just assumed, but
yeah, no.
One should never assume. So Jenny and Dean Barry, they have owned Brown's Propane since early 2020, right before the pandemic got really bad. And they bought it from former colleagues of Dean. But before they became local propane vendors, they were lifelong Mid-Coast residents, though until they were adults, they didn't know each other. So Jenny's story is that she grew up in a few different towns in the Mid-Coast. She went to Lincoln Academy and then went out west for college and decided to come home because even though she thought when she decided to go away for college that she wanted more independence and she didn't want the small town feeling, she started to miss it.
Yeah.
And then Dean grew up in Bath and went to Morse High School and then started trucking and got into the fuel industry. And he's also been a lifelong drummer, so they met at a gig where he was drumming. And I was like, so what happened? Like, did you just start talking? And apparently Jenny knew the keyboard player. So she was hanging out with them while they were taking a break, and they hit it off. And I know people really love them, and rightfully so. They were saying they love when customers come in and like shoot the breeze. So if you want propane and some conversation,
head on over there.
Yes. And they have a really sweet dog named Freya as well.
Is the dog going to be there too if you go?
Oh, yeah, she's there.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
Even more incentive to go give him a visit.
Yes. And then a kind of new face for us, our freelance reporter Tiger Cumming wrote about a new fiction bookshop in Wiscasset Village.
Yeah, it's going to be opening Saturday, March 29th. So by the time you guys listen to this, it'll be open. It's at 49 Water Street in Wiscasset. Owner is Tony Chappell, former journalist from Colorado. After some adventures over in Wales, she moved to the Mid-Coast in 2023. Didn't plan on opening a bookstore, but
that's funny.
Things just happen at the right time.
They do, yeah.
So yeah, I guess the store reflects her passion for history. There's a robust mystery section with main authors taking priority, which is lovely. And the selections are kind of targeted towards summer visitors, as that's the demographic that's coming up. But I read the story, and she says as she gets going, she's excited to kind of curate the collection to what customers are looking for.
Nice. Wow. So that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited to stop in.
The store is called Fiction, a Novel Bookshop, and it's at 49 Water Street in Wiscasset. And it's open 11 to 5, Wednesday through Sunday after that Saturday, March 29th opening. Yep.
Back to RSU 40.
Yeah, I just want I'm sorry. I'm sorry, they're just doing so much. I just want to give people a heads up that if you are attending RSU 40 meetings in person, first of all, say hi. And second of all, they are moving the location again back to the central office. And Piper, I know that tomorrow, as we're recording this, tomorrow is Saturday, March 29th, and you're going to be in Alna.
Alna town meeting. Woo!
Let's go.
Everybody get excited. On the agenda, a fire truck purchase, donation of historic property, ordinance amendments. Lots of stuff to talk about. Lots of stuff.
And I'm sure it will be talked about.
Oh, it will be talked about. The fire truck, I believe the language in the warrant is that if they're authorized to do so, they can purchase a new tanker up to $740,000. They have a reserve account they've been putting some funds away in. So, that coupled with a loan, bada bing, bada boom, new fire truck.
Wow. It's always a huge move when towns have to do that.
Oh, yeah, totally. So I'm sure there will be some deep discussion about it. Other than that, the municipal budget is also on the agenda. It's proposed at $1,260,572. And because Alna is part of RSU 12, that does not include the education budget. So,
awesome.
Yeah, that's what's going on in Alna.
Great.
All right. And over in the sports realm, we've got the Lincoln County Cardinals. It's a new team in the Pine Tree Men's Baseball League.
This is so cool. I'm so excited about this.
They're going to be playing home games at Wiscasset Middle High School. Their games are going to be played Sunday mornings beginning at 9. And their opening game is at home on May 4th against the Kennebec Sturgeons. And so I guess their first 6 games are at home again at Wiscasset Middle High School. And they've been preparing all winter in Brunswick at the Coastal Performance Center. Yeah,
Dang.
They are ready to go.
That's awesome.
Their roster includes players from Wiscasset, Booth Bay, and Bath between the ages of 18 and 50. So we've got a wide range of men coming in, getting ready to go.
Sorry, I haven't read the article yet.
Good.
I wonder if that's a cap or just
I don't know.
how they happen to be.
I will say, though, they're still looking for one more pitcher who has to be at least 28 years old, according to league rules.
Interesting rule, but okay.
I know. I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm sorry, you guys.
No young pitchers, please.
But yeah, the team is managed by Jake Tidd, a former Morse High School coach. So... yeah.
Cool. The Pine Tree League has been around for 100 years.
Yeah. He says it's the best baseball league in Maine. Jake Tidd does. So
yeah, I believe it. Lincoln County. Yeah.
So yeah, again, May 4th at home is their first game. So get on out there and cheer them on.
Yeah. That's really exciting.
So, Molly, let's talk library funding.
Yeah.
Because there's some things going on that might not be looking too good for us.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on at the federal level right now in terms of discussion around funding cuts, efficiency, and what federal agencies will continue to exist. And it starts to affect us at the local level when our local agencies like libraries, schools, etc., are making budgets and planning their next year. And it is that time of year. And there's continuous like legal challenges to some of the executive orders that President Trump has issued. And there's just a lot of uncertainty about what will take effect and what funding will be available. So watching people grapple with that as we go into budget season has been interesting.
Yeah.
And one specific example of this is how recently a recent executive order signed by Trump on Friday, March 14th, eliminated 7 federal agencies, including the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is the only federal agency that oversees libraries. That could mean like public libraries. Well, I guess it just does mean public libraries, but there's a lot of different kinds of public libraries.
Yeah.
And then like museums and archive services and things like that.
Not the museums.
Yeah. And when I say oversee, I mean that just means that they administer federal funding to them.
Yeah.
And so those agencies are gone.
Well, effectively, is that what that means?
The executive order said that they should be eliminated to the maximum extent possible without violating statute. So
interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're allowed to draw on grants for funds that they need to get rid of the agencies.
Yeah.
Basically, according to the executive order. It's scary so I found out about this because there were some email newsletters sent out by our local librarians, including Matthew Graff of Skedumfa and Katharina Skove, the director of the Waldoboro Public Library. And they were both calling on their patrons to contact state representatives to speak out against this, which in any state, this is a national issue. They were saying they hope people do. And the reason that they said they're concerned about this is that even though Skedumfa, for example, doesn't directly get federal funding, they do rely on a lot of services from the Maine Library Association, which does rely on federal funding. Mm-hmm. And for example, some of the things that Skedumfa gets from the Maine Library Association are free internet. So Skedumfa doesn't have to pay for their internet. And then in turn, they can provide it for free for people. And it's like you can access it from the street if you just walk up to Skedumfa 24/7.
Just get close enough.
Yeah, like the library doesn't have to be open. So Matthew was saying that a lot of people use the internet there who don't necessarily have internet at home. Mm-hmm. The Maine Library Association supplies print and recorded books for people who are blind or large print or recorded books for people who are blind or visually impaired. It provides funds for interlibrary lending, which we had Matthew Graff on the podcast here to discuss interlibrary lending this summer because for a completely unrelated reason, interlibrary lending was interrupted this summer and we got to see the effects of that. Mm-hmm. Interlibrary lending is when you want a book, but your library doesn't necessarily have it. So you can get it from somewhere else. And it's not just books, any kind of resource that the library has. And they also provide tech support, books by mail, which is for people in rural areas if they don't have a library. Through the Maine Library Association, you can still get books or movies or other materials sent to you through the mail. So the reason why our library directors reached out to people was to kind of rally public support to speak out against this executive order because they're hoping that it's not final and then it doesn't go into effect. Matthew Graff was saying, this is a quote, IMLS funding only accounts for 0.003% of the federal budget, and the return on that investment is profound. So it seems like our local librarians are against this measure. I know that when it was implemented, the title of the order was related to like efficiency, and that's the rhetoric that's been surrounding these cuts, but we see that the effects are pretty far-reaching, so.
This is a big deal.
It is, yeah. I think the amount of services that libraries provide are kind of an example of something that you don't know what you've got till it's gone sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think, and this is kind of how this is happening more broadly, as we see schools trying to make their budgets, not knowing what's going to happen with Maine's access to title funding, for example, which is federal money. That's kind of in question right now with the Department of Education also being targeted for elimination and then other factors. There's different responses to that. Like some schools are saying, well, we need these services that we used to pay for with title funds. So we're going to put them into our budget, and ask taxpayers for the money that would be required to fund them. And then other schools like RSU 12 are saying we just will wait and see. Because the guidance from people at the federal level is kind of all over the place. People don't really know. So they're saying, we'll just wait and see. We won't put it into the budget. And then if it does happen that we lose access to these fundings, I think what they would have to do is go to a special town meeting and ask people if they want to fund the things that are provided for. So in the case of libraries, they're funded through several different channels. There is usually town contributions and donations and things like that. So if this money is lost, the libraries will have to figure out what they want to fund and what their communities want to fund, I suppose. So that's something to keep an eye on as we go into budget season, because it's definitely a more unpredictable budget season in terms of federal funding than we had last year. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as we move into budget season and cover education budgets and town budgets and maybe library budgets. I hear that Skenumpa's going to be developing their budget soon. So we'll let you know if anything changes.
Well, thank you, Molly.
Thank you, Piper. And thank you, libraries. Personally, I really enjoy them.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. Production support is provided by Tyler Davis of Tyality Productions. Theme music by Stu Mahan and Sherwood Olin.
Have a question or a suggestion? Email us at info@lcnme.com. And if you haven't already, please be sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen.
This has been a Lincoln County Publishing Company production.